Shalom, Yasharala. This is your brother Dawada from GMS St. Petersburg, Florida, coming back at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise unto YAHAWAH, BAHASHIM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHIM, or HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you all can pushing this truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So I want to get into this here lesson, dealing with, the things that's kind of at hand. We getting stirred up in the news and, the controversies coming back on around and how we can't be, how they try to frame the thing. They call us Black Hebrew Israelites, as far as, a group of black people trying to, portray themselves as a part of a group of something. All right. Whereas this isn't something that, you can choose to be. You can't, convert to this or anything like that. This is something that you're born as. I give the analogy, I was going to give the analogy, me in America, how we was carnally say I'm a so-called black man, right? I can't convert, myself, no matter how many so-called Mexicans I hang out with, how much Spanish food I eat, how much Spanish I speak. I cannot convert myself to be a Mexican, a so-called Mexican, right? Same way with, you could say people like, let's say Eminem. People like, oh, Eminem is like one of the best rappers, right? He's in the black community with, hip hop. But no matter how high up in regard he is in the so-called black community and so-called, in rap, he can't convert himself to be black. He's so-called black. You can't change your so-called race. Even with Michael Jackson, all right? Michael Jackson wanted to bleach his skin, all right, for whatever purposes. That's not important, but nevertheless, he wound up changing his skin color, right? Now, on the outside appearance, this is the same way with, how do you say those transgender people and things like that, No matter how you want to dress it up or what you look like on the outside, your genetics on the inside and your DNA is not going to change, all right? So, for instance, Michael Jackson, you could say, oh, he converted, visually converted himself from a so-called black man to a so-called white man. But in reality, if Michael Jackson was to have kids with a so-called white woman, you would still see the hints that there was, so-called black people DNA inside that child. All right. So you can't change, like how Michael Jackson, on outwardly could change his so-called color and appearance. He can't change who he is DNA wise. All right. So this is the same thing with these so-called Black Hebrew Israelite type of things. OK, there's no such thing as a Black Hebrew Israelite. All right. First and foremost, this is a label that they put on to us to demonize us. All right. They call us certain things that make it seem like, oh, here it is, group of so-called black people coming together to be against the so-called white man because they just want to be so-called black. Right. But nevertheless, what they're not looking at is, when you look at the whole house of Israel, the 12 tribes, the majority of the tribes are the so-called Latinos and Native Americans. So, I mean, whatever. But nevertheless, they still call us so-called Black Hebrew Israelites. All right. As if, again, there's no way that, we could be, because we tell you that we, the children of the Lord, we the people in the Bible, they say that there's no way that could be possible, and, in today's society, damn, I didn't grab that. Today's society, let me actually start with that. This is Job chapter 9, verse 24. It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? All right. This is First Maccabees chapter 3, verse 48, and it says, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen has sought to paint the likeness of their image. So the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, which we can look around now, like the scriptures say, if not who and where is he? He covered the faces of the judges, When you look at all the so-called biblical pictures of the so-called biblical characters, they're always painted as so-called white men, who is God, who you ignorantly call Jesus Christ, all the saints, all the apostles and everybody, even the angels are painted as so-called white people. All right. But, this is no surprise. This is nothing to be shell shocked about. A lot of our people be like, well, they always be lying. This is the white man's book, so on and so forth. Well, if you actually took the time to read the book, all right, and, the Most High gave you the understanding to be able to reveal these things to you, it's clearly written in the book that like you already know, the devil was going to take over the world, which is the so-called white man, instead of thinking about some kind of caricature of a so-called red man. He actually is red. That's why you call him a redneck, right? The so-called white man took over the world, and then he hijacked the church, and then he painted all the images like unto himself. Let me read First Maccabees 3, verse 48 again. And laid open the book of the law, which is the scriptures, wherein the heathen or the wicked or these Edomites as they know in the Bible, or how you know them as the so-called white man, has sought to paint the likeness of their images. All right. And going back to Job 9:24, he covered the faces of the judges. So now we live in a society where everybody's looking at, a so-called white Jesus, so on and so forth. So when we bring these things out to people, they're like, nah, first, a lot of people stop when they see the horns on that picture of so-called Jesus, and they look, oh, this is wrong, so on and so forth, and then when we start going into it, people say, oh, his color don't matter. His color don't matter. Well, that's just some bullshit, because, all right, let's just say, I'm not I'm not really for Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, or any of these types of people. But nevertheless, how important is Martin Luther King's color? All right. What if Martin Luther King was a so-called white man? Would it make such a difference? All right. What if Emmett Till was a so-called white man? All right. What if Malcolm X was a so-called white man or a Chinese man? All right. It would make a huge difference. All right. What if Rosa Parks was a so-called white woman? All right. It wouldn't have been no scenario. A so-called white woman. Not to say she refused to give up her seat in the bus, because that's where the so-called white woman sat at. But because she was a woman of so-called color, it made the whole difference. You see what I'm saying? How people say Barack Obama is a so-called black man, which we know he's a Hamite. But just for the argument of conversation, what if his color didn't matter? What if he was a so-called white man, right? It would, they wouldn't go down in history as the first so-called black president, So people's color do so-called matter. When you go get a driver's license, you apply for a job, anything like this, they ask you what your so-called race is and your ethnicity. So your so-called race is very important on many different levels, But just for the situation that we're looking at for so-called fact finding and research, race is very important. All right, in this scenario that we're looking at, that race is important as well for family and things like that. But as far as we doing the so-called research and investigation, all right. So when doing these things, just like rightfully so, identifying somebody is very important. All right. Because if you're just talking about, let's just say, for instance, Adolf Hitler. Right. Adolf Hitler did all these horrible things to the Jews, supposedly. Right. So now, if you didn't, how do I say, connect that with so-called Germany. All right. And then when people go around, let's just say you hypothetically in Germany, and you're talking about some shit like that, then people looking at you all weird, like, yo, you're not associating Hitler with Germany and so on. You don't get the connection, So it's important to understand the things that connect. It's like we say, oh, we speaking out of context. All right. So we're going to get some context on, like I said, people say that, oh, his color is not important. Oh, that's not important, or he was, he was the son of God. He was a spiritual person. Well, first and foremost, they said that the Lord was crucified on the cross. All right. Then they also said that he was a gluttonous and a wine bibber. All right. So these things are traits of an actual human being on earth. If there was the woman who touched his garment. So if he had a garment on, he had a body. Right. And then also if he was crucified on the cross, they whipped him. They plucked out his beard. He had a physical body, just like me and you. There's nothing weird about that. All right. He had facial hair. He had regular hair. He had arms. He had legs. He had hands. You know what I'm saying? So the weirdest thing that it would be, the biggest problem with YAHAWASHI, or who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, was on the scene was the biggest debate was whether or not he was the son of God. And that was the controversy. It wasn't a controversy. There was a man walking around that didn't look like none of the other people walking around, And at that point in time, you still had so-called white people walking around. And you had so-called people of color at that time walking around. All right. So for you to see a person that's walking around with no skin color at all, that would be the weirdest thing about him. Not the fact that he claiming to be the son of God. People probably would have believed him then. They probably would have believed the miracles. Like, wait a minute. I mean, it's already written, but nevertheless, the miracle should have been enough. But, they would have been documenting that. Like, fuck his miracles, fuck his claims. Homeboy walking around with no skin color. Like, this is the weirdest shit we ever seen. Like if somebody actually was walking around with purple skin, that would probably go down in history. Somebody was born with green, like shit. We talk about Donald Trump being orange. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, if somebody was born actually green or purple, that shit would go down in history. All right. That would be an important part of so-called history. All right. So the Lord had a skin color. All right. And so people try to dodge all these things because it comes down to the end of what? And why is it important that he has a skin color? All right. It's very important to our people that he had a skin color and what his skin color was, because when you grow up, I can speak from experience, growing up, in a so-called black household, everybody in power that I saw was a so-called white man. When I went to the stores, all right, everybody that worked at any of the stores, the business owners and people in power in the stores were so-called white people. The police, the law, and all of that, there was always white people. When you go to school, the people you learn from, white people. When you in help and you need to go to the doctor, they white people. When you need anything, it's always white people in that position of power. Now, where it gets even more deeper is when you down on your knees and you praying for whatever reason it is. You know, some people pray when they in high distress, whatever, whatnot. Oh Lord, you know, shit's real bad right now. I really need you to come through, so on and so forth. Everything going, I just need you to come through. I'm getting depressed, so on and so forth. Now, imagine this: you a so-called black man, all right, being oppressed and beat down and so on and so forth by a so-called white man, all right, and you want to pray to the Lord about this oppression and the so-called racism that you're going through, right? Now you getting down on your knees and you praying and you having hope and faith into a God, somebody more superior than you, that looks like the person that's oppressing you. Okay, and when you look around, there's nobody on your side. There's nobody to hear your cause. All right. So when you look around, that image is very important. This is why in the so-called black community now you have all these young kids that's growing up. All they want to do is so-called be rappers, drug dealers, and like Instagram hoes, basically. You know what I'm saying? Because of the fact of why all of their so-called role models, the people that they see in power that look like them, are either what? Drug dealers, rappers, or Instagram models. They don't see anybody else that look like them in power, all right, and in prominent places, all right. If you know, so-called black kids, every time that they everywhere they was going, they was growing up, all they saw, you know what I'm saying, was people that look like them, you know what I'm saying, on all the money, you know what I'm saying, on all the banking institutions, working in all the banks and things like that, working at the Mercedes-Benz dealerships, owning Mercedes-Benz, selling them and things like that. They would think more highly of themselves. And not, you know, one of the common things in the hood where you see Jake that be just gangbanging, they be like, man, shit, I ain't got shit to live for. I ain't got shit to lose. You know, that's way more deeper than just a so-called cool saying. That's like some real shit, you know. They didn't come to terms that that's what it is. So this is why that color is important, all right? Now, like I said, in the predicament that we in now, they trying to reflect and deflect and demonize and scrutinize all the things that we got going on. So they try to throw out this black Hebrew Israelite thing just to say, you know, and you know, brothers did plenty of videos on, am I a black Hebrew Israelite? And you see a lot of the other brothers, you know, with the so-called confusion of, well, with the confusion of faces that look like so-called white people in our amongst our ranks. All right. Then you also see, you know, the Northern Kingdom that they don't look like, you wouldn't ever classify them as so-called black people. All right. But nevertheless, you know, in these times that we in, you know, this is, you know, important for us to be defending the gospel, because what they about to start coming at us. Oh, black Hebrew Israelites, black Hebrew Israelites. Well, we're not going to sit here and argue with you that we're not black Hebrew Israelites. We're going to just hit you with the scriptures. And we're going to flood you with so many of them that you can't deny. Which scripture are you going to deny? All right. So with that, you know, we're going to just jump right back into this here lesson. All right. Let me get back into the blue letter. I just like using the blue letter a little bit better. But we got a premise now about, you know, why it's, you know, what happened and why it's important, you know, about this here color, because a lot of our people, that's the first thing they do. You know, they hate seeing themselves in power, you know. They want to fight against anything like that, you know. Well, why is it important, you know? When we on the highways and the byways, a lot of so-called white people, they'll hear, they'll sit, listen, and they'll be like, oh, you know, that's kind of, you know, makes sense. They'll think about it and, you know, they'll analyze it in their head. Or they might be like, you know what, that is kind of true. You know, I believe that, or so on and so forth. But our people with the overwhelming evidence, even out of so-called white man's mouth, you know, we'll show them so-called white man's words that this is, you know, what it is. And if, nah, we can't believe that. Y'all just preaching hate. Well, it don't matter what color he is. Why does it matter? What difference does it make? You know, but they don't even realize, but this is what keep them in captivity. All right. This is 1 John chapter 4, verse 20. It says, if a man say I love the Most High, I'm gonna read it verbatim. If a man say I love God and hateth his brother, he is a liar. For he that loveth not his brother whom he have seen, how can he love God whom he have not seen? And this is the commandment we have from him, that he who love God love his brother also. All right. You know, one sense, hey, you know, like love, love the Most High, you know, love your, you know, it's easy to keep all the commandments if, hey, you love him, you fear the Most High. All right. Same with your brother, right? Because all the commandments basically fall under that. You're going to either what? And yourself. You're going to either commit a sin against yourself, all right, like or commit a sin against the Most High, or you're gonna commit a sin against a brother, you know, sleeping with a brother, fornicating with other gods, or just defiling your own temple. You know, you're gonna do one of these three things, all right. So you can't really say that you love, you know, love your brother or whatever, whatnot, or you love the Most High but you hate your brother, because that's a sin against the Most High for one. you know, or it's a sin against your brother, which is breaking the laws of the statutes, commandments of the Most High. But on another note, all right, just like this, it's like we hear this a lot, you know, and you know, a warning to, you know, you so-called black women, you know what I'm saying, who might, this might fall, you might fall in this scenario, you know, growing up as black men, as a so-called black person, you know, growing up around black women and little black boys and, you know, so on and so forth, you know, you hear this a lot, you know, it's like, boy, you remind me of your daddy, you know, oh, you look just like your daddy, you know, well, where's that kid's dad at? Fuck that nigga ain't shit, that nigga ain't on shit, you know, so therefore, you know what I'm saying, if that child in reality, you know what I'm saying, you think about it, like, how can you really say that you love me, but you hate my father, and you say that I remind you so much of my father? So if that's the case, you know what I'm saying, let me flip it for you, you know, let's say that, you know, cause, you know, make it a little more relatable. You a so-called black man, right? And you getting harassed by some cops. Let's say you live in, Broward County, you know, wherever, you know, let's say you live in Broward County and you getting harassed by the police all the time. You hate the police, right? Now you move to, let's say, another county, wherever. You move to California, fuck it, right? Now, because you have the so-called, you feel a certain type of way because the police be dealing with you a certain type of way, all right? And you got an image in your head, all right, when I see a motherfucker in that, you know, in that car with the red and the white, or the black and the white, whatever, the red and blue lights, that little uniform, the little hat and the badge, the gun, you know what I'm saying? I associate that with the bad experiences I done had with these people, all right? Now, when I move to a completely different place, even though it's not the same exact officers that was doing it, I'm going to relate those same feelings to the imagery that I see when I see you dressed up in the same outfit and the same type of cars. I'm like, you know what? I don't like these motherfuckers because they all about the same. You know what I'm saying? So in the same sense, all right, how can you say, you know what I'm saying, you love the Most High, but you hate your brethren, all right? Because like what? We the children of the Most High, first and foremost, we come from him. And just like how I was saying about, oh, I can't stand your daddy ain't shit, but you remind me of your daddy, all right? Like, wait a minute. Like, you know what I'm saying? I kind of look like my dad and so on and so forth. So when you see me, you remember my dad, and then now you having that hatred for my dad and putting it out on me. All right. So when you go into this, it says, let me read that again. It says, if any man say I love the Most High and hate his brother, all right, he is a liar. All right. So it says, for he that loveth not his brother whom he have seen, how can he love the Most High whom he have not seen? All right. Now, going back into why the lower color matter, that don't matter. You know, you have a lot of self-hatred for yourself. Why y'all always talking about black, black, black? You know, this is coming from our own people, you know. And we know that we have this thing with self-hatred on our own self. You know, we want to be everything else but a so-called black person, and deeper than that, an Israelite. All right. And I say a so-called black person at first because, I mean, hell, you can see the curses at that, you know, just trying to so-called, not to say the so-called black people are black people, but try to convince a so-called black person that they a black person. You know, the people that don't say that they so-called black people, they be like, oh, we so-called Indian, or we Scottish, we this, we that. You know, they'll come up with all kind of different things just to not say that they are who they are. Okay, so you have so-called self-hatred for yourself. So how can you have self-hatred for yourself, or in a carnal sense, how can a so-called black person have hatred towards other so-called black people? And how we say so-called be bougie, oh, you think you white, or you think you too good, you think you better than so-called black people. Well, if you so-called better than black people, how can you say that you hate your brother, or you love God and you hate your brother, when the Most High, he black too? You know what I'm saying? If these Edomites seen, just like YAHAWASHI, you know, they seen us, treated him, they looked at him just like a nigga, just like you. You weren't nothing but another nigga, man. He was just a more so-called uppity nigga. This nigga thought he was the king. That's the only difference between you and him. All right? So how can you say, can't, you know, gotta pull up my pants? I can't understand why these, you know, why some black guys gotta walk around and do this and do that. We gotta just wear our Make America Great Again hat, try to assimilate with the so-called white man. You have self-hatred for yourself, but you say, you know, I go to church, I worship my white Jesus, I love God, and so on and so forth. You love God, but you hate yourself and your self-image, in which you was created in the image of the Most High. You and him, if y'all was on the scene at the same time, or you and YAHAWASHI was standing side by side, and you know, let's say it was you, YAHAWASHI, or fuck it, let's just say YAHAWASHI and the apostles was on the street corners, on the highways and the byways, prophesying. Somebody will roll up, the police will roll up, look at them niggas on the corner. It'd be just a group of niggas. All right? So how can you say that you so-called hate niggas when all the men of the Lord was aka so-called niggas? All right? So let me continue on. Let me just read that one more time, because I find that real deep. It says, 1 John chapter 4 verse 20. If a man say I love God and hated his brother, he is a liar. For he that loveth not his brother whom he have seen, how can he love God whom he have not seen? All right. And this is really going into a lot of our people who's not in the truth. First and foremost, definitely going to the people that's not in the truth. People in the truth already have this here understanding. We love each other. We love our people, you know. But nevertheless, those that's not in this here truth, you know, they want to separate themselves from who they are and everything like that. You know, they want to so-called think of themselves a little bit better and higher, this and that, you know. But again, at the same time, bro, you so-called hate your own people, which the Lord is of those people. And you trying to go, hey, let's just keep it real. You trying to be with these damn Edomites, all right? And you don't, and that's the people of the Lord's curse, the people who you have indignation for forever, all right? Though hand join in hand, the wicked not gonna go unpunished. You're gonna go right down with them, all right? You hate niggas? Well, nigga, okay. Fuck it then. You know what I'm saying? These niggas is just wrong. They the real niggas. Like, yo, why, you know, we understand why you hate yourself, but nevertheless, this is why we're going into this here lesson. This is why it's important about this here skin color, all right? I mean, it's not a thing about, oh, well, you got this skin color, that skin color, but why this imagery plays an important part, you know what I'm saying, in our people's minds and in that life. All right. Because why? This is like what you call a so-called Jedi mind trick. All right. This is Jeremiah chapter 14, verse 2. It says, Judah mourneth. Now, Judah, all right, is the tribe that's, you know, the so-called Negroes are the tribe of Judah. All right. So people call ignorantly called so-called black people, all right, are the tribe of Judah. All right. Now, the house of Judah consists of the so-called dark tribes, Benjamin, Levi, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. All right. Now, these are all so-called dark-skinned tribes, but nevertheless, Judah is one of the 12 tribes. All right. Now, again, like I was saying, the kingdom of Judah, all right, consists of 3 different tribes, which is the smaller portion versus the northern kingdom. All right. So the smaller portion is how you would say the so-called black tribes. All right. This is only, and Judah itself is who you call the Negroes. That's just one tribe. So how can we be black Hebrew Israelites? All right. Judah, how do I say? You can be a Jew, you know, a so-called, not to say a so-called Jew as far as Jewish, but Jew referring to from the tribe of Judah. You can be a Jew and an Israelite. All right. You could be a Jew and an Israelite, but then also you don't always have to be an Israelite and a Jew. All right. So for instance, you could be a Jew, which is one of the tribes of Israel, one of the 12 tribes. But then, you know what I'm saying? You could be a different type where you could be like, let's say an Ephraimite and an Israelite. So an Ephraimite will be a so-called Puerto Rican today. All right. But they're still Israelites, just like the so-called Negroes. The so-called black man is an Israelite. They're both Israelites. But which tribe are they from? One of them is from the tribe of Ephraim, which is the so-called Puerto Ricans, and the other one is from the tribe of Judah, which is the so-called Negroes. All right. So for you to call us the so-called call us black Hebrew Israelites, again, this is a redundant statement because the majority of us are not even black. All right. And the so-called who you call so-called black people, when you use that term black, you're referring to the so-called Negroes. The so-called Negroes are only one of the tribes. All right. So it says Jeremiah 14:2, Judah mourneth, the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground. The cry of Jerusalem is gone up. All right. So it says Judah mourneth, the gates thereof languish, meaning, you know, we in mourning, we in a low state right now. All right. But it says they are black unto the ground. Now, when you go, you know, we can go all the way back into Genesis, the creation of man. All right. The Lord said he formed Adam from the dust of the earth. All right. Now, when you go into the earth, you start digging into the ground. The further and further anywhere you dig in the ground, there's going to be some variation of a brown color. All right. And the further you go, I believe, is the darker it gets, you know. But nevertheless, hey, Adam was formed from the dust of the earth. All right. He was full of all the vitamins and the nutrients and so on and so forth. This is why our body is like when you look at the so-called black man, his body is genetically full of everything that it needs. Whereas when you look at the so-called white man, their body is, how they say, like he was rightfully named, wasted away is he, you know, Esau. All right. But nevertheless, you know, when you scientifically go into the so-called white man, they're so-called, what they call that shit? They have recessive genes. All right. They have, you know, they say you got dominant or recessive genes. The so-called black man's genes are the dominant genes because it's full. You know what I'm saying? You got a full cup full, right, of all the vitamins and the nutrients of the shit that your body need when it was being established. Whereas the so-called white man is missing things like melanin in a lot of places. This is where they get the so-called blonde hair from, the so-called white skin from. Any color in your eye versus brown, because I believe we all start out with like a really light color eye, like blue or green or some shit like that. But this is the this is the conversion of Shit. Slack it. Give me 1 second. All right. But dealing with your eyes, this is the stages that your eyes is going through. Same with your skin color, because we all pretty much born really, really light skinned. Then you start, your skin pigmentation starts filling in and things like that. Whereas the so-called white people, they're lacking, they're wasted away. So they don't get the full portion. All right. So if let's say let's say you got a speaker volume, right, or old school radio, you got to turn up the knob from 0 to 100, right? The so-called black man, when they're born, they're full of all the things that they need. They're a complete unit, 100%. They got the dominant genes. The so-called white man, they're in the recessive state. So therefore, you know what I'm saying? Now the darker this, I don't even know about the darker stuff that they get, but nevertheless, but you can see them with these deficient genes, with the blonde hair. All right. Like I said, well, I was going to say the darker their hair color is, a little bit more of the melanin they have, but the blonder it is, the least amount that they have, the more they're lacking in. All right. But nevertheless, these people are lacking in color. All right. This is, oh no, Jeremiah. This is Job chapter 30, verses 30. It says, my skin, all right? Because a lot of people will try to rearrange a lot of these different things. Oh, that's not what they're talking about. This is not what they're talking about. This is not what these words mean. But he definitely said, my skin is what? Black upon me, all right? And my bones are burned with heat. So here in the book of Job, you know what I'm saying? Well, we just read in Jeremiah where he was talking about, all of, the children of Judah, all right? The tribe of Judah, they were black, all right? But nevertheless, in the book of Job here, he's saying his skin is black upon him. Now let's go back to the tribes. All right. Jacob was, with Jacob and Esau came out and he was red all over. He was the one that was lacking the skin pigmentation and melanin. All right. But before him, everybody else had skin pigmentation, color. They were all men of color. Now Jacob came out and Jacob had his sons. All right. Now they was all men of color. All right. We was always men of color all the way up until this very last time frame that we living in now. When the so-called white man came in and started breeding and things like that, when we had the so-called natives and these so-called Catholic schools or whatever they were. And this is how the so-called Mexicans and the natives and so on and so forth have the skin color that they have today. This isn't something that's been going. They didn't always look like this. You go back, 400 or 500 years ago, they would look just like, just like me, basically. All right. Now let's go from there to the Song of Songs, which is the Song of Solomon. This is the Song of Songs. Well, let me just read it. Song of Songs, verse 1. The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for thy love is better than wine, because of the savor of thy good ointments. Thy name is a ointment poured forth. Therefore do the virgins love thee. Draw me, we will run after thee. The kings have brought me into his chambers. We will be glad and rejoice in thee. We will remember thy love more than wine, but the upright love thee. All right. Well, here's the point that I wanted to get right here, actually. Verse 5. I am black, but comely. O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. All right. Now this is actually a how do I say, a so-called Jake term, say it loud, say it proud. I'm black and I'm proud, or what is it? I'm big and black and ugly as ever. However, I stay coochie down to the socks. Or I'm black and I'm beautiful. These are all basically all the same sayings, or they all have the same basic meanings. I'm black and I'm proud, or I'm black and I'm beautiful. I'm black and I'm proud of it. Biggie said big and black and ugly as ever. However, he was just flipping it a little bit. Y'all say that I'm big, I'm black and I'm ugly, but however, I'm proud of who I am. I love who I am. All right. So it says let's go into this. All right. Well, this word here just says black. All right. It says properly dusky, but also absolute jetty black. All right. It says blackish color of the face. All right. So let me go back into that. So if Solomon was saying he is black, all right, in his face. All right. Now let's go look into this other one, Kedar. It says dark. All right. It says dusky of the skin or the tints. Kedar, son of Ishmael. Let me see. Nevertheless, that was the point there. It says, where was we at? It says dusky of the skin or the tints, but the skin means dark. All right. So twice in the same passage, he basically referring to his skin color. All right. It says, I am black, but comely. All right. Let's look at that real quick. Comely, beautiful, seemly, comely, seemly. All right. It says Song of Songs 1 and 5. It says, I am black, but comely or beautiful, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Now you have some of these people who try to skate around and saying, oh, these are Solomon's women that's talking to him or whatever, whatnot. You know what I'm saying? But this is Solomon talking. It says, I am black. First of all, verse 1 says, this is the Song of Songs, which is Solomon. So Solomon wrote this. And verse 5 says, I am black, but comely or beautiful, O ye daughters of Jerusalem. So he's talking to the daughters of Jerusalem as the tents of Kedar. All right. Dark-skinned again, as the curtains of Solomon. All right. Look not upon me because I am black, because the sun have looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me keeper of the vineyard, but my own vineyard I kept not. All right. So again, Solomon, who is the son of King David, all right, who the Lord YAHAWASHI came through this here lineage in his line, which they was from the tribe of Judah. Again, these are all so-called men of color, so-called black men. If you was to see them today and they was hanging on the corner with a bunch of other people, the same people in their same family, you would just be like, yo, look at that pack of niggas over there. All right. If you seen them on the news and said some shit happened, you'd be like, oh, some more niggas doing some nigga shit, you know. But nevertheless, this is these are facts. That's descriptive facts that's stated in the Bible that our people overlook. You know, 40, 50 years in the church and they don't even realize they're reading a book about themselves, and yet they still bow down to a so-called white man and pray to him. All right. In which, hey, it was written in the book that they would cover up his face and put up the damn devil. All right. This is Isaiah 29, verse 22. It says, therefore, thus saith Yahweh, who redeemed Abraham concerning the house of Jacob. All right, Jacob's name was changed to Israel. All right, Israel was the father of the nation of Israel, the tribes of Israel. All right, it says Jacob shall not be ashamed, neither shall his face now wax pale. All right, so when you look around now, you see all these so-called white people calling themselves so-called Jews. They the Jews. They the Jews. Well, that's just one tribe. You're not even the house of Israel. All right, you just so-called one tribe, or if at most you claim, you know, the kingdom of Judah. You don't even claim the whole house of Israel. You know. But nevertheless, hey, the house of Israel is not going to wax pale. All right. His face is not going to wax pale. All right. And he's not going to be ashamed walking around looking like these damn Edomites with no skin pigmentation that needs sunblock in the screen. All right. Those people are ashamed because they got recessive genes. That's why they have to fucking get butt implants, breast implants, lip implants to look like Jake. All right. We got the full deal. All right. They go suntanning and stuff like that. Need sunblock to go to out to the spot. You know what I'm saying? But what? We're not going to be ashamed, neither shall his face wax pale. Now, you do have something called the confusion of faces. Why? Because we were scattered in the four corners of the earth. So, yes, you will have some of us that look like the so-called white man. You will have some of us that look like the so-called Chinese man. But in large and whole, you know, Israel is not waxing pale. The majority of us still look like how we look. All right. So from there, we're going to go to the book of, let's see. This is Acts 13 and 1. All right. This is Acts 13 and 1. It says, now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called Niger, and Lucius of Cyrene, and Manan, which had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul. Now, you know, some people that hadn't been around, or if this is the first time hearing me or watching my videos, like, oh, wait a minute, you reading out the Bible talking about niggas and shit and fuck and all that? Look, man, those are just words that, and really words with no real power. A lot of these words is just bullshit words anyway. That's not, you know, not getting too deep into it. That's not really cursing nobody. It's just a word with no weight anyway. All right. But nevertheless, you know, the word nigger. All right. We're going to go back into this because it was, you know, how, again, if it's a stumbling block to you, when I use the analogy, like if you've seen, you know, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ on the scene with the apostles and the disciples, they would have been like, oh, look at that pack of niggas over there. right? That's what they would have called them. All right. So let's get this in the Bible. All right. So it says in Acts 13:1, it says, and Simeon that was called nigger, or well, let's just get it. Because some people, that's not how it's spelled. That's not how it's pronounced. But let's just get it. All right. And this is why they say Blue Letter Bible is such a helpful tool, because you can click on it. You know what I'm saying? You can go back to the translation and see what these words really were. All right. Because a lot of the words as we see are not the same word as what they really are. So in English, they have a different meaning, like the word world. You know, there's many different words for the world, and the same with the word love. All right. So we're going to go down here to the word nigger. All right. It's G3526. I turned down my volume.
526. Nigger.
So nigger. All right. So it says nigger, black, a surname of the prophet Simeon. All right. Latin origin, black, nigger, a Christian. All right. Now, who are the Christians? All right. The Christians weren't so-called followers of Christ, how you people would think of it today. All right. They were by definition, but not how you think of it today. All right. These people would be basically the apostles and the disciples of the Lord that was actually rolling with him, following the law, statutes, commandments with him, following after what he had going on. All right. They wasn't saying, oh, we Christians, but we eating pork. All right. So those people that was up in the house of the money changers, yes, they was in so-called, how you would think of it today, in so-called church, and they was so-called religious, but the Lord didn't see them as so-called Christians. He didn't see them as his disciples. Those was his so-called enemies. All right. So the real Christians, all right, the so-called, the real men of the Lord, the prophets, all right, those would be the real Christians. All right. But this is what they call, it says a Christian nigger. This is what they called a Christian. This was another name for the Christians, niggers. Hey, y'all niggers over there. All right. So in reality, hey, when people are calling you nigger, all right, that's not really, I mean, really, in reality, it's like, when people get mad about using the word cracker, and I'm like, wait, there's no derogatory term you can call a so-called white person besides an Edomite or an Amalekite or just, you know, their biblical name. All right. Because like the word cracker just brings them back to the times when they had us in slavery and they was cracking the whip on our back. That's where they get the term from, cracker, cracking that whip. All right. So it's just a name of empowering them. All right. Same with this here word nigger. Like, yeah, well, let's look that word up, nigger, biblically. All right. Well, they was calling the men of the Lord and the people that was rolling with the Lord niggers. All right. It's the same thing. All right. So let me read that again. Acts 13:1. Now there were in the church. All right. The church that was at Antioch. All right. Now Antioch necessarily isn't saying that these people. All right. For instance, right. Let's say how we say our people are the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Right. And we only for our people. Right. We're not for Chinese people at all. Right. We're not trying to save or we're not trying to convert Chinese. We're not trying to do no shit like that. Right. However, if we out there in China looking for some people in China that look Chinese, you know what I'm saying, through the spirit, you know what I'm saying, looking and examining through the spirit, you know, because the scriptures say my sheep hear my voice and they do follow. All right. Those would be like a so-called confusion to face. All right. But nevertheless, they was basically still be Israelites. All right. But nevertheless, you know what I'm saying? That's what it's talking about. Like here it says, now they were at the church that was at Antioch. All right. They was looking for Israelites. All right. And the places where they were scattered at. All right. Now they were at the church of Antioch, certain prophets and teachers who were all what? The saints, which are the saints are all what? Israelites. All right. So we all talking about nothing but Israelites here. All right. Now the names of them was Barnabas and Simeon. Now Simeon was one of these teachers, which was a prophet, which the prophets are the saints of the Most High, which are who? The Israelites. All right. Now the Israelites. All right. One of them name was Simeon, that was called nigger, and of Lucius and Cyrene and Manaen, which was brought up with Herod the Tetrarch and Saul. All right. So here clearly, like we also went to the definition, the word nigger is in the Bible, and it was used and defined as the same way we kind of do it today. All right. But the only difference between how we do it today and how they did it back then, you know, and today they didn't added a couple more, not to say meanings to it, but context to it. You know, it could be used in a racial way, you know, a derogatory way, or, you know, how Jake be using the so-called, how they say in the so-called term of endearment. All right. But nevertheless, you know what I'm saying? It has the same basic definition, referring to a so-called black person, more or less to say. All right. Now, from there, we're going to go. Let me see what I'm looking like on time. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close out this here video, and I'll come back with another part to this. All right. Stay tuned. You know, if you're going to just watch this here video, hey, that's just it, you know, but I'm going to follow up with a part 2. We're going to continue on with this here lesson. Until next time, I say, call halal Yahawah, Bahashim, Yahawashah, Bahashim, or Kakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of great millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you, Akim, pushing his truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Stay strong. Shalom.